Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Newsman Weekly Podcast, episode number 62. I am joined again today by Zach Heiser, the executive producer of the Newsman Weekly, and also Hayden Gray, the show's official videographer, for at least one more week.
I'll let you do it yourself today.
Well, I was waiting for you to join in. I enjoy a good chorus. But good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
You were both involved in the opening night of high school football season Friday night. For the first time in years, I didn't participate in the start of Friday Night Lights. Be honest, I covered my first game in 1979 in Southeast Ohio, and I'm certain my presence on the sidelines and in the press box was not missed. So where did you go Friday night, and how did it all come together?
Oh, I'm sure you were missed, actually.
I seriously doubt it. I didn't miss it, but we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Hayden, you go first.
Okay. I was at Madison for Shelby Madison. It was the third Grant Mill Iron game. That was kind of the storyline that I didn't touch on as much. But
how is it fair that you get to cover Shelby? Aren't you biased in all your coverage as they whip it along?
Didn't you cover Lexington a ton?
I didn't graduate from
but
Lexington.
Nonetheless.
First game I covered was my alma mater in 79, though.
I keep my bias out of my writing. Thank you.
Good.
But, no, it was a good game. Shelby did what Shelby does. I
thought it was 56-14.
That's what I'm saying.
How was that a good game?
Well,
that's his bias.
Yeah. Listen, if you would let me, let me get into things.
General Custer, how was the battle? Oh, it was a good battle.
the Shelby first stringers did what they need to do. They got to a running clock differential by halftime, so second half running clock the whole time. But here are the reasons why it was good. If you want to look at why it was good for Shelby, got some young guys in there to get some playing time in the second half. For Madison, why I'm saying it's good, though, is Kobe Johnson, longtime assistant. He's a Madison guy, not the way you want necessarily your first game as the head coach to go.
Not necessarily.
But, listen, I can relate to where their program's at because we were very much in that similar position. My freshman year, that's when Eric Will took over for us at Shelby. That was his first year. We still weren't that great my freshman year, but you've got to start somewhere. And for the Rams, you've got to have a coach that – the way I was trying to put it was if you're going to lose, you at least want to lose with a coach that you like, that you respect. Because I know you will kind of talk about that probably from your game. But you can tell that they really enjoy having him leading the program. So I think it's just the start of something there. There's growing pains. But it was a nice night for football. It was great weather. Yeah. I know we thought there was some cramps around the area, different games that shouldn't be happening. But
how can you cramp in 70-degree weather?
But it was good to be back on the football field.
Okay. What about you, Heiser?
Yeah, speaking of the start of something, Loudonville smoked Mapleton 60-0, and they looked all right. And I know Mapleton, they're going to have a rough year. But Loudonville still made some really nice plays. This quarterback threw like a 25-yard hitch and go to the corner of the end zone to their wide receiver, Hirschberger, who's really good. They've got a sophomore running back, Colin Cayley, who's really good. He had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Their Loudonville's coach was Ed Honebarger, who turned the Danville program down in Knox County into a playoff qualifier every year. So they kind of have a good thing going there. And I talked to him after the game, and I was like, yeah, you guys were 0-10 last season. Like, what would you work on over the summer? And he said the biggest thing was I think the season before he came in May, so he didn't get much time with the kids. And he said, just having a full year with the kids, getting to work out and work on fundamentals and drills and everything makes a huge difference. So could be an exciting year down in Mohican Valley.
Loudonville might have just found themselves a new.
You want to finish that sentence, or you just want to let it drain?
You gonna follow the Redbirds all year?
I might. If they're good, I'm gonna have to keep going back.
Loudonville beat reporter.
Yeah.
So you guys are lucky. You get to go out and cover games like right at the beginning of your career. When I started in college, what you did on Friday nights is you sat in the newsroom and you answered the phone when people would call in results after games.
Oh, we don't have a phone in the newsroom.
But that's how you would write a game story, is you would take it that way, and then you turned that conversation, which is usually the stat keeper, not a coach, and you turn that into a game story. I remember the first Friday night I did that. The first result I took over the phone, I was writing my story on a legal pad before I typed it in because I didn't know how to type. And the sports editor, a guy named Jim Crummell, came back from the game he'd covered, and he saw me writing on a legal pad. and he yanked it out of my hands on the desk. He tore the entire legal pad in half.
He threw it
he threw it in the trash. He pointed at the computer and he said, "Write it there, not on a pad."
Wow.
And I'd never written on a typewriter before, but I didn't tell him that when I interviewed, so I had to start learning how to type that.
Well, my version of that, what is I can't remember the name of the radio station, but Davy Jones does the phone board, right? Over in Crawford County. He's been doing it for 50 years.
Yeah, I don't listen to radio much.
Oh, I'm just saying, on the way home from games, like the first few years I was covering stuff, you'd call in and you'd tell him the scores.
No, well, that's kind of what we did. Hey, while you were working, I was sitting with about 1,000 other people.
You crowd.
Hard Rock Casino Ballroom in Cincinnati to see a wonderful show by magician and comedian Justin Willman. We had seen Willman's Magic Lover special on Netflix a few months ago. It was pretty amazing. When we found out he was going to be in Cincinnati, it was a perfect opportunity to check out his new show, One for the Ages. Now, it's hard to describe magic on a podcast, okay, but this guy is really good. All I know is before the show started, I told my wife, here's one thing you cannot ask during the show. How did he do that? Because I have no damn idea.
She probably said it anyway.
Yeah, a couple of times, but I tended to ignore it. But yeah, he did one like time travel thing, which I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version. Had a woman come on stage, got a dollar bill from her husband or her boyfriend. Told her to come up with a generic word. She came up with jigsaw. He wrote it on the back of the dollar bill. He showed on the cameras the close-up of the serial number on the dollar bill. Okay. They then sent that dollar using a time machine, which looked a lot like a plastic box with some doohickeys on it. They sent this dollar bill back in time, 24 hours, to that theater or that ballroom the day before. And they went to a video. And it's him the day before. They showed they're in the ballroom. There's nobody there. And he goes, "Hey, good to see me." Says, "Thanks for sending this dollar bill back." And he opens the box, and there it is. And it's got jigsaw written on the back, and it's the identical serial number. He says, glad you could do it. Hope you're having a great show. I'll send it back to you now. He takes a metal glass. He fills it full of water. He puts the dollar bill in it, and he puts it in a little white freezer. Okay? He says, "Here it comes." And then they cut back to the live stage, and there's Justin. He's standing there, and he pulls this little sheet up, and there's this white freezer. He opens it up. He pulls out the glass. He holds it to the woman. He goes, "What's in here?" She goes, "Ice water." And he taps it. He goes, "Well, some places we call this ice, not ice water." But he unscrews it, and he dumps out this block of sheer ice. And there's a dollar bill inside it. And you look at it, and he shows it to the camera. It says Jigsaw on the back, and it's the identical serial number. I don't know how he did it. No idea. But I'm sure it's a great illusion. Very amazing. Anyway.
He needs to come teach us.
Yep. Some of you may have seen Justin on Netflix over the years on his series Magic for Humans and the Magic Prank Show. I'm not sure when he's going to be back in Ohio, but when he is, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's pretty damn amazing. If you have Netflix, go look up Justin Willman. The guy is pretty amazing for a guy from St. Louis, Missouri. And yes, we did get to the show early. I had a chance to play a few slot machines.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand today's slot machines. Most of them, there's no handle to pull.
Right.
And the screen is buzzing and bouncing, and I have no idea what the hell any of it means.
It's all like touch screen.
Yeah, none of which I understood. But we came away with more money than we put in.
That is all that matters, especially if you don't understand what's going on.
Exactly. So that was a winning night in my book. And yes, I may have visited the sports book and put down some money on my beloved Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl.
There you go.
Or I may not have. You don't know.
Oh.
Well, you may have.
Because if I win big, I don't want the IRS
Is that a public
to know.
record?
What might have the odds been for that?
What may have been?
I forget what it was. Not that I put any money on it, but
plus 400 or 500. No, it's more than that because I think
it would be a nice chunk of change if somebody bet on the Packers to win the Super Bowl.
I think plus 1,200, something like that.
Well, I didn't. I just know I may or may not have because I don't want the IRS to know if I actually win big.
It's fair.
Valid.
They do listen to this show.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Religiously.
Yeah, very religiously. Folks, we couldn't do an episode of the Newsman Weekly, much less 62, without all of you. So thanks again to all of you for joining us today for your weekly recharge of news, information, and faux entertainment. We are grateful so many of you come to us every week. We know we couldn't do it without your support, so please, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the show, give it a great rating. Once you've done that, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and give it another good rating. Again, we don't know if that's possible or legal, but please give it a try. Many thanks to local country singer Luke Watson for writing and singing Smoke and Drink. After this weekend, it's a very fitting theme song for this show.
Did you forget that you were employed over the weekend? Did you get some good time off?
You know what? I did.
It was a long week last week for you.
I did not look at the Slack channel one time.
Good
I had
job.
no idea what was going on. I did read and saw that there was an arrest made, and we'll talk about that in a minute, on my day off. And then I saw Slack messages where I think it was Katie Ellington's Rao said this would happen on Carl's day off. So
I did see that. It's a compliment.
But, our thanks also to the great folks at Relax. It's Just Coffee for sponsoring this show and being such a great partner to the Newsman Weekly. Every day, Monday through Sunday, just starts better with great coffee. And our friend Paul Kimmerling and his baristas at Relax simply have the best in town at 105 North Main Street in downtown Mansfield. By the way, Mansfield is not the only city that has construction going on downtown. I got to tell you, I was in Cincinnati, and I went to turn on the street that goes to the hotel, and it's closed, and then it's one lane, and they're building a park, and I shook my fist, and I said, Mansfield is the only city that is having construction on streets. All right. Hey, we got another great show for you today. We have two great guests lined up. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Doug Wertz, the artistic director at the Mansfield Playhouse. The Community Theater opens its 100th season on September 5th with the classic comedy Moon Over Buffalo. We'll get the lowdown from Doug on that show and other happenings at the East 3rd Street Theater, and I may have some insights into that show we'll talk about. After that, local attorney Eric Miller will be in the podcast studio. Eric was the driving force many years ago behind the pothole haters tax in Mansfield. He also led the successful drive to convince voters to approve the Mansfield Water Main Initiative last year. And now he's looking at the Clear Fork Reservoir. We'll find out what's on his mind these days, so stay tuned for all of that.
Well, at least he's not looking into our show.
Oh, no,
Not yet.
Somebody needs to monitor this mess. In the meantime, we do have some news. Mansfield police arrested 2 suspects late last week in the suspected murder, and I promise you I'm going to be butchering some names, so bear with me. In the suspected murder of 18-year-old Ja'Myrion Hobbs on August 17th. A young man named Andre Hawthorne. It's Yaounde. I don't have any idea how to pronounce it.
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, yes. Mr. Hawthorne, 25, was arrested Thursday by members of the Richland County ASORT team, Metrich Enforcement Unit, and officers from the Mansfield Police Department. The 15-year-old was taken into custody at a separate location. Authorities have not revealed his name. He'll likely be in Richland County Juvenile Court. Hobbs was shot to death a couple Sundays ago in an alley that connects Lexington Avenue and South Main. Mansfield Police Chief Jason Bauman said the arrests were made possible due to tips provided by members of the community. Quote, this case demonstrates the impact that can be achieved when law enforcement and the community work together, the chief said. By working together, we can continue to enhance safety and security of our community. So congratulations to the community, Mansfield Police, for solving a murder pretty quickly.
There's probably no way of them knowing, but I didn't read the statement. I mean, do they feel pretty confident that there were just the 2 suspects? Do they feel pretty confident?
Obviously, wasn't here on Friday.
Yep.
I think we covered that. I paid little or no attention. I did read the story and a couple of Slack messages, but I did get some texts from Katie that apparently came in while I was driving to Cincinnati, and I felt bad because I didn't see them until we got to the hotel, and I answered and said, sorry, I'm out of town, but she'd already gotten the information she needed anyway. So,
Good job. She figured it out.
Yep. Hundreds of vintage cars were packed into the Richland County Fairgrounds this past weekend for the 28th annual Heart of the City Cruise-In. A Heart, which apparently relocated this year due to construction on Main Street in downtown Mansfield. The annual car show is free for spectators. They apparently had golf carts if you needed to get from the parking lot into the fairgrounds. Cafeterias were open, along with a few specialty food vendors. Weather was perfect for the event, which will likely return to downtown Mansfield when the $19.3 million Main Street Corridor Improvement Project is completed.
Can't wait.
It's not going to be completed until October of 2026. So next year's car show could be back at the fairgrounds depending upon how things are going.
I believe that's what they plan on. I wrote about it back in March when they talked to the Richland County Commissioners about it. And, yes, it's the heart of the city, Cruise-In. Yes, they had to relocate it. It does not – I don't know. But again, it has to do with reading Facebook, which I shouldn't do. But I feel kind of bad for the organizers because I don't think people understand – it's not really their choice to have it somewhere else. potholes. I mean, if you wanted them to have it downtown and to park a bunch of classic, really nice cars on a bunch of gravel and loose stone, I mean, I think the car owners would have had a little bit different opinion. But
there you go. These opinions brought to you by Hayden Gray and may or may not represent the views of the Newsman Weekly podcast, the Richland Source, or Zach Heiser.
All I know is October 26th is going to be awesome. The construction is going to be done, and the Guardians are going to be in the World Series.
Wow.
Yeah,
we need to score a run first.
Which of these two things is
Well, that's
true?
next year. This season's their off year. They're bad on odd years, and they're good on even years. That's the pattern.
All right. Hey, in Lexington, a $500,000 state grant is going to fund a long-awaited safety corridor along East Main Street. Construction between Castor Road and the Village Square. It's going to start in September. Village Mayor Bob Jarvis said the project has been in the works for nearly 4 years, following a successful application for a safety grant from the Ohio Department of Transportation. Work should be done by May of 2026. A redesign will reduce the road to one travel lane in each direction, east and west. A dual left turn lane will run through the middle with a bike lane on both sides. Changes will cover the area from Castor Road up to the square. The mayor said the lane reduction aims to slow traffic down and hopefully reduce the number of accidents through that stretch of the village.
Is that the area where, like, if you're coming into downtown Lexington, where you're passing, like,
you say that like you like
like the old, like the.
I mean, my God, you're
and,
not from Cleveland or Columbus. You're from Shelby.
The old Bucks.
Yeah,
and,
it's bigger,
and
but it's not
that.
that much bigger.
And if you're turning from when you passed elementary school, that is a really problematic area,
yes,
right by Why Not Cycling, I think.
Yeah, it's
a
right
scary area.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard there's the Baker's Pizza is coming to Bucks. Is that?
You know what?
That hasn't been confirmed though. There's rumors.
Nothing confirmed. All rumors.
If it's true, we did that.
Oh, we
on
did.
The Newsman podcast.
We broke that news. We told Mayor Jarvis get. You know what? I was at Bucks
on 8 months ago.
I was at Bucks on Saturday night, and it was outstanding. My wife had no idea, nor did I, that the Packers were playing at 4:00. We had been in Fostoria, and we're on our way back home. We drove from Cincinnati to Fostoria, and then we were coming home. So we go in, we sit down, I look up, huge screen TV, Packers game started right at 4:00. So I got to watch the first half of a beautiful. Didn't talk to her, just watched football and ate pizza. So.
She probably appreciated it.
Well, her friend was there, so she got to talk to her.
Perfect.
All right, that's enough for now. Let's take a quick and well-deserved break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Doug Wertz, as now a certified friend of the show and the artistic director of the Mansfield Playhouse. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Newsman Weekly podcast. Joining us now, as promised, is Doug Wertz, artistic director of the Mansfield Playhouse, a repeat guest here, and is now qualified to become, if he so will choose, a certified friend of the show.
What does that mean?
Means that you are always welcome back, and I will not let Hayden badger you needlessly.
There may be a certificate.
There may be a certificate involved.
I expect that in the mail.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll
That'll
put
be
it.
great.
Yeah, certificates in the mail, much like my bill checks.
It's like reward points.
Yeah.
Just build them up, and then you get
cool.
like a bookmark.
No, I'm all for
after
that.
like 1,000 points.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, bookmark is kind of the extent of our budget, and not exactly a high priority show.
A bookmark certificate.
Yes.
That's
Hey,
good.
the community theater, the Mansfield Playhouse, is in the midst of a $7.5 million capital fundraising campaign, breaking in new lips to build a new theater. And it's just about to launch its 100th season in Mansfield with the farcical comedy Moon Over Buffalo. Good morning, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me here.
All right, let's start with the fundraising campaign. How goes the effort aimed at raising money to build a new community theater in downtown Mansfield?
Well, when you're trying to raise that kind of money, you want it to happen a lot faster than, you get a little I'm a little impatient. I expect everything to happen overnight, and we should be breaking ground by now.
Haven't you done that?
We haven't done that, no. I can barely keep up with pulling the weeds. But so far, we really officially launched this thing back in March, and so we've had some goals that we set up on a quarterly basis, and our first quarter out, we've done pretty doggone well with nearly 1.5 million. I think we ended up with 1.4 out of the 7.5 that we're trying to reach, and now we're in a second phase of really looking for some larger grants and things like that. There's a lot going on in the background, and thank goodness we hired a professional consultant team that's really working well for us.
Very good. Now, this new facility, which is planned for the current property at same land at 95 East 3rd Street, will replace the aging multi-story structure with a modern one-story building.
Yes.
That is fully ADA compliant.
Absolutely fully accessible.
Because the current theater certainly is not.
No, there is nothing but stairs, and believe me, as long as I've been there, I'm feeling it. But the thing about it is what's really important is the ADA compliance and bringing everything up to code. For all of the safety issues that we address in that building, and the poor old thing's just deteriorating. Right. But I think it's important to recognize that there are almost 12% in Richland County of our population under the age of 65 that have some kind of physical disability. That's under the age of 65. So then you got to think about our season ticket holders, some of our seniors, and those who have been around for 40, 50 years, and now they're dropping off because they can no longer make the stairs. So I think it's very important not only that we take care of those people to fully fulfill our mission, that we can serve the full community, not just as audience members, but also as participants, and that's very important.
Yes, as a 64-year-old sometime performer at the Playhouse, I would love to get in an elevator rather than climb the stairs to. Well,
there's no elevators in this one, so
I know.
How old is the current building?
The building is over 100 years old.
Wow.
It was built originally as a basement church. And then it's kind of a patchwork palace, really, because of the front lobbies. I think it was ordained the Grace Gospel Tabernacle on October 10th of 1920.
Wow.
And then here I thought it was in the 40s that they put the second floor on, but I think it was only in 1927 that they put the second floor on and put the front lobby on and the second floor sanctuary in.
So with the new facility, will the old building be completely flattened and then?
Yes.
The new one on top of it? So it's not a remodel, it's just
unfortunately, it's got charm, and we've been blessed to be in that facility for nearly 60 years, but it's really outlived its life.
Yeah.
So it will be raised, and there's a house behind it that is our costume house, and that will be raised as well and turned into all new parking lot, which will really help the city really out nice. As well during the daytime.
Because the current building, if left to itself, is trying to self-demolish.
It is. Yeah, I don't think there's a stairway you can walk through without seeing plaster on the floor.
Are there trees growing up through the?
We do. Have you seen that? Did you take the tour?
No, is there really?
Yes, there is. You come up with the backstage stairs, and in the window you can see this tree coming, and I don't know where it's coming from because I went outside. It's not there. It's growing from inside somewhere. So
it's coming from the inside. It's going to be part of a new.
The most realistic props around.
We have trees growing up on the stage now.
We're environmentalists.
Yeah.
A lot of people likely don't know that the Mansfield Playhouse is the second oldest continuously operating community theater in Ohio. I know, Doug, you like to tell audiences coming to the show that it's the best kept secret in Mansfield.
And I believe it is. It's like living on a lake and never going swimming. It's crazy. But I don't know how many times I will ask the audience members at a curtain speech, how many first-timers we have. And I'm surprised at the number of people that raise their hands. And then I ask them, do you live here? And have you been here all your life? And they raise their hands, and I ask them, where have you been? But it is one of the best kept secrets, and I think there's a stigma about community theater for I think that there's a level of quality that they think that they're not going to get to see something that's well worth their while, and it's far from the truth. The fact of the matter is that we are probably one of the most affordable recreational facilities, entertainment facilities in Richland County, if not further out, at $15 a ticket for a regular ticket for an adult to come see some quality live theater. It's professional level.
Now, you are about to launch the 2025-2026 season. You've got 5 main stage shows, 2 second stage shows, and 2 children's musicals in a facility where you are the only full-time employee, and your wife Tammy is a part-timer as the theater manager. That's a busy schedule for 1.5 employees.
It's too many hats. There's no doubt about that. And part of the capital campaign, by the way, is we are trying to develop more for at least a year's worth of funding so we can get 2 more employees in there. So we really need a technical director, maintenance person, as well as somebody that can help us with development and marketing, because we do pretty much all of it right now when we're there. I direct 7 of those shows on main stage. Anything that's on the main stage, I direct and build sets for and design my lights, stuff like that. So.
And you also do the marketing and ad sales and
yes, yeah, for our season program, we're calling sponsors and advertisers. So yeah, I'm the sales guy for that, and putting together, working with some volunteers who have helped us so graciously with our graphic arts and things like that. But there's a lot that goes around and back around that people don't understand. But it takes an awful lot of work to make things look so much fun.
It does. The busyness reminds me, there was a small, I think it was Lima Central Catholic, was getting ready to play a high school football playoff game against Hopewell Loudon, Bascom. And I was interviewing the coach during the week, and apparently he taught 7 classes a day. He was the athletic director, the football coach, and the dean of discipline. And I said, that sounds like a busy schedule. And he said, yeah, if the nuns could shove a broom up my ass, I could sweep the hallway when I walk down it. And he said, please don't print that. And I promised never to repeat it. And apparently I just broke that promise.
At least it wasn't printed.
Yeah, from 40 years ago. My apologies.
Statute of limitations.
He's probably not the coach anymore.
Yeah, I was looking at the 25-26 seasons. It looks like you got some interesting shows.
Oh, it's going to be
And I'll
fun.
just leave it at that. Go to mansfieldplayhouse.com and check it out for yourself.
Yes,
Let's
please
drive you
do.
some traffic.
Yep, you can find out all kinds of information, not only about what the season is, what the capital campaign is. We try to put some history on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Community theater in Mansfield, and this goes back to why the stigma, guys. Get away from that. Come out and enjoy yourselves and find something new and understand what this is really like. We're celebrating 100 years of community theater and had the support from the community for that long. So that's a heck of a landmark.
Must be doing something right.
Something's going on, right? And this, with what we're doing and the goals that we have in mind, this is our first major capital campaign ever. So that I'm aware of, to raise this kind of money and do what we need to do. And
well, you've been at the Playhouse for 95 of the 100 years that it's.
not
quite 50, 40.
Yeah,
A long time.
I'm from '78.
78.
I've been involved in some capacity since 1978.
Well, there you go. That was a year before I graduated from high school. So I think you got involved when you were still in schools.
I did. I got involved in. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, as we're going to talk about Moon Over Buffalo, which opens the season here in a couple of weeks, I must confess, truth in advertising, Doug may reluctantly cast me in the show, so I do know a little bit about it. But what can you tell our audience about this Ken Ludwig comedy that's been around for a pretty long time?
If you enjoy laughter and you enjoy fast-paced, farcical, slapstick humor, this is the show. I laugh at every rehearsal, and we've been in rehearsal for a month, potentially, and at this point, but every single night something else sparks me, and it's just it's a great cast, but the energy level is so much fun. Teaching Carl to do some of the physical comedy is a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I'm still working on
I'm
still working on how to fall down steps. I don't have
Yeah,
that.
we'll have to work on. I'll help you with that.
I heard
All right.
Carl's
No problem. I
I'll
can
help you
step
fall
in and help
downstairs.
if you need.
I mean, I can do it. I can do it after drinking unintentionally, but
Yeah.
making it look unintentional is the
But
key.
the most fun is watching you fall over that ottoman.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a poof.
It's a poof.
Yeah,
It's a
Doug
big
said.
poof.
Doug said you have to fall over the poof, and I said, "What the hell is a poof?" I mean, yeah, it is a big ottoman, and it's
And
yeah.
and there's more poof to the poof than you think.
Yeah, there's a lot of poof going on in this show.
Poor Carl.
But it is
Public humiliation.
Yeah,
This is the show for me.
Yes, that's
Oh,
the
it's
one.
great.
This is the story of George and Charlotte Hay. Charlotte is played by the wonderfully talented Maureen Browning,
Yes.
and they are badly aging
Performers. yeah.
Broadway performers, and they've now been reduced to doing traveling theater,
Repertory theater,
repertory
yes.
theater in Buffalo of all places, and they are hoping to get one more break at the movies, and it looks like they might get that break but things just don't go well.
Well, things don't go well because of why? George
George is bad.
George was a bad boy.
Yes.
And he decided that he was going to have a little fling with this young ingenue within the.
Are you George?
Within the
I am
team.
George.
Oh, wow. So do you have a romance scene?
No.
A makeshift
With
one.
all of the stuff that happens with the younger member of the cast has already happened
Yes.
by the time the
It's
curtain
happened.
opens. So yeah, there's none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a romance scene, but it's me and another guy. So
Wow, you're really selling it
I
now.
mean, it's not really romance,
Well, it's not,
I guess.
it's not
Not
very
the
rom-
romance
It's
you're
not
thinking,
romantic
yeah.
at all.
No,
believe me.
yeah, it should be funny though. So
It's funny. It's hilarious. It's really very funny. But gosh, I lost my train of thought.
It's 'cause we're getting older.
Oh my gosh, I'm too old. But Maureen, her timing. But George was a bad boy, right? He was a bad boy, and then he gets a call, and of course he lied to his wife, So she's all upset. Now she's going to go run away, and she's going to leave the theater, and he's stuck. And just when his agent calls and says that Frank Capra is going to direct this movie, and they would like George and Charlotte to take place and fill the cast for those people, one of them who got injured, right? And George was going to take over, insisting that Charlotte play the opposite role. However, too late. You've already screwed up. She's out, and now we're chasing. So he doesn't know what to do with the dealing to deal with this, or how he's supposed to overcome this. So he founds his brevity in a bottle, right?
yes, a large bottle of bourbon or scotch or
I think there's
alcohol.
probably more than one involved, actually.
Yeah,
So,
he definitely spends an awful lot of time in the second act, fairly intoxicated, which that's
You
unlike
can play that role well.
It's because
I mean,
there's
it
practice.
comes naturally.
thank you for that, Hayden. Thanks for telling everybody that apparently I have an alcohol problem. I'd like to.
No, you don't have any problem. Drinking at all.
No, I drink, I get drunk, I fall down. No problem.
No problem.
All right, now I know, Doug, you are big in encouraging new faces to become involved in the shows, and I know there's at least 2 brand new performers in this show who have never graced the Playhouse stage before.
That's true.
How cool is that, and how well have they been integrated into the show?
Oh, I think that, first of all, with the cast that we have, and this is one of the beauties of community theater, is how people really gel, work together chemistry-wise, and support one another. And we have, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Fennon? David Fennon?
Yes. The good thing is we just usually have to type it. We don't have to say it out loud.
Oh, right, yeah, I can read
Yes,
it,
yeah.
but I didn't realize I had to verbally say it. But anyway, David is joining us as the part of Richard, who is a past love interest of Charlotte. He's always had an eye on George's wife, right? But he's also the company's attorney. So there's a little bit of a fun stuff there, but he's doing a fine job with that. And poor Richard is really kind of the straight man in the whole show. He
takes a beating.
He takes a little bit of a beating, but then we have Adam Turner, who has come in to take on, and these aren't monumental roles, unless you make them monumental roles.
He's amazing.
He's coming in to take the role of Howard, and he's truly amazing. His comic senses, his timing, his expression. He kills me. I can't stop laughing at the guy every night.
And sometimes it's not. It would be hard to do when there's a sword between your legs.
Yes,
I
yeah,
mean, that's
yeah. Oh,
something to look forward to.
he handles that well.
Now, in addition, and we talked about this a little bit, but in addition to directing the show, you build the sets, you take care of the lights, you sell the sponsorships, advertising, but you also have to arrange for crew
Yes.
to help during the show. And this is a show that requires maybe a bit more crew backstage than normal because you've got some movable walls and.
Right. This particular show has 2 sets involved. So when you come on, and it's a full box set that replicates a green room behind the stage of the theater. So it's a stage, a show within a show. But because they're doing repertory theater, the matinee that they play is a different show. So it's not the one that's currently on stage. They're doing Noel Coward's Private Lives.
Cyrano.
Yeah, Cyrano, no, Private Lives.
No,
We're doing Private Lives.
Cyrano.
So in Act 2, we have to change the entire set. And it's adjoining balconies at a posh French hotel, and it comes out, and then it falls apart. Not the set, the show.
Yeah.
The show just absolutely goes nowhere from that point on. George has messed up again.
Yes,
but
as he often does.
But he does a great Cyrano. But then we have to move that set back,
Right.
and it all has to be hidden backstage. And if you know our stage, if you're familiar with the Mansfield Playhouse and our stage at all, there's no wing space. There's no place to store this stuff. We have to get very creative. So, we got to MacGyver things together and, do that. But we do need extra crew. If anybody's out there is interested,
Yes.
they're going to be bored for Act 1 when it really comes down to, but you can sit in the green room, watch the monitor, and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Act 2, we've got several pieces that need to be moved in a very short period of time and then moved back in a very short period of time.
Yes, it is interesting to see movable walls, walls that look very solid, and all of a sudden Doug is sliding them around like matchbooks. All right, Moon Over Buffalo stages September 5, 6, 12, and 13 at 8 p.m.
Yes.
September 14th, which is a Sunday afternoon at 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
Tickets are just $15 for adults,
Correct.
$13 for seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Student tickets are $10, but is this a show necessarily for young people? You tell me.
It's probably not younger. It's more of a PG-13 if you were
Yeah.
to rate it that way. But because there's a little bit of language, but nothing that you wouldn't
Nothing
see
these
on
kids haven't
television.
heard before.
Nothing the
That's right,
kids aren't.
Zach.
Or their parents are telling them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nothing the kids haven't heard at the bus stop.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's where they hear things these days.
Yeah.
The bus stop.
Yeah.
But for the younger ones to understand some of it, I think that's
Yeah.
where they would have a bit of a difficulty. But
I have a hard time understanding parts of it, so it's
you-
okay.
having a hard time
Easy.
understanding how some of those lines actually fit together.
Yeah, because it's Shakespeare, and I really don't.
Oh, great.
Please, Mansfield Shakespeare Company, don't take this the wrong way. I love what you guys do. I have no idea how you
How?
remember Shakespeare lines.
Yeah.
Because
And-
I can't remember a damn one of them.
And most of them don't know what they're saying.
No, and I'm going to say these Shakespeare lines during the show, but here's behind the scenes, folks. I have no idea what any of this shit means. So when it says, "This rough magic I hear abjure," I have no idea what that means.
No.
I did find a Shakespeare actor on YouTube so I could hear a Shakespeare actor
Yeah.
say it, but I have no idea what it means.
Well, it's not as
great
easy to
acting.
say it either when you're inebriated.
Exactly.
Must be doing okay because I have not had to run lines with him yet. I would like to think in some way I'm once removed involved with Carl's acting because I have had to run lines with him before. So I haven't yet.
Is that in the job description?
Yes.
I
It
don't
was.
know. It is now.
He definitely had to help with Death Trap
Yep.
last year.
Oh,
It was-
my
it
gosh.
was
Yeah, those are
interesting
some
to
lengthy
do.
monologues.
Quite a difference in contrast between characters, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
This
it
is. This is where you bring those character actors into.
Listen, instead of
Really
a phone
grow.
monologue, it's an intoxicated falling around the stage monologue.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that. All right. What else is going on, Doug, with the Playhouse and anything else that you want to tell us about this morning?
Well, we've done quite a bit of things. We're trying to do some more fundraising and extracurricular things as well. We are doing this season. We are doing a collaboration with OSU Mansfield, and in celebration of the 250th in 2026 of our Constitution, we are doing the musical 1776
Oh,
with OSU. So there'll be a weekend that it plays at OSU Mansfield, and then a weekend it plays at Mansfield Playhouse.
if you need someone to sing "Sit Down, John," I mean that's the only line I know from the music.
Yeah, there's a lot of sit down, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if there are some male actors out there who like to sing too, I mean, because that's a big cast, and it's a bunch of male vocalists. But that should be fun. But we have, we've been starting quite a bit of a seeding project of bringing in more stand-up comedians all the time. And I have quite a network of comedians that are reaching out to me at this point, and we're working this on. And we may do an open mic here before long and see what we can find locally. I think that'll be a lot of fun. We'll take advantage of our second stage space.
Right.
And
Because the nice thing is, the Playhouse does have a license to sell wine and beer.
That's correct.
And I encourage people, if I'm in a show and it's a comedy, to have as much of that as you can beforehand.
And they don't charge an arm and a leg for it either.
No,
you know,
no.
it's very fair.
No, everything's very affordable. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause,
It's all about making things affordable for all.
I've always told people the more drunker you are, the funnier we are. So please do that. All right. Well, we're going to end it there with Doug Wertz this morning, the artistic director of the Mansfield Playhouse, and now a confirmed and registered friend of the show.
Thanks
you
very
for joining
much.
us today, Doug. Break a leg with Moon Over Buffalo. Please be nice to your cast. They're trying. I'm just going to say it.
Well, you break a leg as well.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by longtime local attorney and community breaking in new lips, advocate Eric Miller. Please stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Newsman Weekly. Joining us now, as promised, is Mansfield attorney and longtime community advocate Eric Miller. Eric, thanks for taking time to join us today, and thanks for getting up so damn early.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, many of you listening know Eric from his efforts on behalf of Mansfield issues like the Pothole Haters Tax and the Water Main Initiative, but I wanted to go back just a little bit in time before we talk about the more recent projects. Now, you told me several months ago you always considered yourself to be an infrastructure guy. You even talked to the city about a job at the water treatment plant, which is kind of an unusual move for an attorney. So how did Eric Miller really get started in North Central Ohio?
Well, I grew up in Mansfield, and I had just a great childhood, and the city gave me a lot of opportunities. And I wanted to come back here when I graduated from law school, and I feel obliged to try and give the next generations some of the opportunities I had.
Now, what about infrastructure did you find so interesting even then?
Well, my interest in infrastructure arose this way. As a kid, I read a lot of history, and I loved reading about battles and the great generals, and I thought that the great generals shaped history, and it was all a chess game. And then as you get older and read more sophisticated history books, and you realize that really viruses and bacteria shape history more than these generals do.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that nations can go to war, try to slaughter each other, and then the infrastructure fails, and there's more civilian deaths from infrastructure failure than there is from battle wounds. And so I just, got interested in infrastructure and public health from that perspective. And yet at the same time, I don't have any professional credentials in any of those areas. So that's how that arose. And so before I accepted employment here, I called the water treatment plant not to seek a job, but just to inquire as to are they on top of, actually it was the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes.
Just to check and see if they were on top of all the unfolding requirements. And that ended up, they kept pushing me up to higher ranking people until I ended up talking to the safety service director, who at that time was Bud Fisher. And he answered some of my questions, and then he told me that I should submit a resume, and if he had an entry-level job, he'd really want to look into having me work in the wastewater treatment plant. And I said to him, well, I've got too much invested in a law degree, but thank you, Bud.
Yeah, and that sounds like Bud. For those who were too young to remember, he always made me refer to him and others. He was FL, and then you had to put quotes around it. Bud Fisher. Yeah, he was. Bud was the guy who was responsible, as all public works directors or safety service guys are, was responsible for snow plowing, and even then, in the city, people were irate every year when it snowed and the streets weren't getting plowed in time, and Bud often bore the brunt of that, but very good-naturedly so.
Yes, he did.
Now, Eric, I know nature preservation has also been something that's paramount for you. I think I met you for the first time a long time ago. You were working actively to help preserve trees at Mohican State Park. I know you've been active and still are in the North Central Ohio Land Conservancy Group, and worked as a board member on the Richland County Park District. What about nature has been so appealing to you, and why is this so important now?
Well, I feel we should take care of the environment, but to me it begins with recognizing that really the environment takes care of us. We survive courtesy of this marvelous environment that is the earth, and if we don't take care of it, we're all goners. And apart from that, you look at the complexity and beauty of natural areas, and I haven't seen a human artist yet that can make something more beautiful than a natural old growth woods, as an example, or a natural prairie. So I just want to see my community, my backyard, so to speak, protect the environment as much as we can.
Now, do you think part of the problem with places that are as beautiful as Mohican, for example, I think people from out of town come to Mohican more than maybe people in Mansfield go out to Mohican. Are places like that, and now they just opened the new park, which one is it? Richland County Park District.
Fleming Falls?
Yeah, Fleming. They just opened Fleming Falls.
Yeah.
Do not enough local people get out to these things in order to really appreciate them from a local perspective?
Yeah, I think that is a problem of some people don't realize how much is in their backyard, and they tend to think of a vacation as you got to save a bunch of money up, you've got to be able to afford to take a couple weeks away from work, and you got to travel somewhere. And there are terrific free day vacations you can do on a minimal budget right here in the county. And more people, especially people who have it tough and who have a hard time paying their rent and all, need to recognize that if they can pay for the gas and pack their own lunch, there's terrific free day vacations right here in the county that they could take advantage of.
So you're saying there's still hope for people like me?
Yes.
I just did that a couple weekends ago.
Yes. You went out in tent camp, didn't you?
I did.
Where did you go?
At the Covered Bridge, Campground B. And we tried to tube down the river, and the water was a little low. But we still did. We still pushed through.
So you have to bring your own thermos of water, and then you can pour it in and keep the water.
There we go.
No, when I was younger, I was living and working in southeast Ohio in Salt Fork State Park.
Yes.
Which is a man-made lake, much to my grandfather's chagrin, because the state, through eminent domain, took a good chunk of his land when they wanted to flood it to turn it into a lake. And didn't pay him for the timber rights. They just said, here's what we're paying you for the land. And he said, the timber's worth more than the land. And they said, yeah, we're not paying for that. Here's some money, and go away. But yeah, people would come from all over the place to go to Salt Fork State Park. But but very few local people seem to appreciate this wonderful resource that was right in the middle of Guernsey County.
Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah.
What's your, Eric, what's your favorite, I guess, well, I could say in Ohio, or what's kind of your favorite spot in the county or the surrounding area? Mohican State Park, do you have kind of any hidden gems, any recommendations for trails or anything?
Well, I would say for a lot of folks, especially folks on limited income, go to the places that are near your home and go on a day when the weather is good and spend some time walking around and looking. And go from there. Learn to appreciate your backyard, and environmental protection begins with not in my backyard.
Right.
So I'm okay with the NIMBYs of the world. Almost every environmentalist is a NIMBY, and then as they learn more, their notion of what is their backyard just keeps expanding.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, when folks drive around Mansfield, at least since I think it was the mid-'80s is when the pothole haters tax came along, when they're driving around on roads that are not filled with potholes, they can and should thank Eric. Where did your idea for the pothole haters tax come from? For those who don't know, it is a dedicated municipal income tax that can only be used on roads. So where did that idea come from, and tell us about the origins of that?
Well, before 1984, at some point, the voters voted to have a city charter government in Mansfield, and that's when we became a charter city as opposed to a statutory city. And then that opened the door for a citizen-initiated tax to be passed where the citizens could place restrictions on how the tax dollars could be used. Mm-hmm. So other people pushed for that charter. I was on the sidelines trying to get my own law practice started and didn't understand the significance of it, voted for it, and then I started to realize, well, wait a minute. Here Mansfield had become, since I'd grown up, it had become known for having among the worst streets of any city in the state. And so some of us talked and came up with the idea, well, let's push for a tax that can only be used for repaving existing city streets. And so then I didn't really have a community reputation, so I recruited people who did have a good reputation, were well known in the community, formed a committee, and with that committee I also sought out people who were good writers and good public communicators, and those are all weak points of mine. So I recruited people to cover those weak points and formed a committee, and we were told that there's no way this is going to pass because City Council has twice passed an increase, a discretionary increase that they were allowed as a voting City Council, promising to take care of streets, and then they would spend the money on other things. So voters won't believe you. And so the main thing was to convince people that the money would be spent as promised.
Now, one of the things your group promised is you would actively monitor that income and those expenses.
That's right. And again, I can review a legal document, and of course anyone can drive around and see if the streets are being paved. I have that skill set, okay? But I'm not an auditor. So Bill Jellick, who was president of Richland Bank, he was the audit end and I was the legal end. And so then we would audit them every year, audit the city. And then when Bill retired and moved up towards Lake Erie, why then Alex Rocks, who's a commercial banker and has a great audit background, he's taken over with the audit function as well.
Now that's something, I don't know if people realize, that I think the city is able, because of that tax, I think is able to spend around $5 or $6 million a year just to repave streets. Now it's gotten very expensive. I forget the last time I did a story, but paving roads is not cheap.
Yes.
But they're still actively doing it, and that tax, I believe, it was approved obviously when you got it on the ballot, but it's been reapproved several times since then. So people must like it.
Yeah, people like it. It was passed in 1984 the first time. It's on a 4-year renewal schedule, and people vote for renewal. In recent years, we haven't even campaigned. It's self-renewing now. It gets like 2/3 of the voters saying yes without our even having to campaign.
It's a great name. It's branded so nicely.
Now, who came up with the name, Eric?
You know, the name was a fellow who was a retired executive from Westinghouse who worked on national TV commercials in the day when Westinghouse Mansfield was a big center. His name was Gil Baird. And so he's one of the people that I recruited. And so originally we were the United Pothole Haters, which was a play on United Telephone. But yeah, Gil Baird did all the conceptual stuff. And, as I say, when I do this, I recruit people who care about the city. So in the case of the streets, you don't talk to people about paving and what paving costs. You talk about streets safe for families. You talk about let's get to work without ruining our cars. You bring it down to the level of what people can relate to in their daily life. Right. And then that gets phrased and presented by people like Gil Baird, or more recently people like Tim McKee, who are really skilled at public communication and are good writers.
Now, the city of Mansfield also, in addition to having some bad roads back in the 80s, we've had century-old small corroding water mains throughout the city. Many of our leaders kicked the can down the road for as long as I can remember in terms of fixing a very crucial infrastructure issue. How did the idea develop to ask for another specific income tax increase that was dedicated to replacing water mains?
Okay, well, that really got kick-started for me in the year 2008. And my environmental mentor, a man named Paul Knoop, he's been nationally recognized as an outstanding environmental educator. And actually, we talked about the Clear Fork Reservoir. And what prompted that is I'd read about communities losing lakes to harmful algae blooms. And I talked to him about that, and he said every time a city blocks a river and builds a reservoir, that reservoir is on a glide path to fill up with silt and go from being deep, cool, drinkable water to being a shallow, stinking swamp that becomes poisonous, and all the fish die, and you can't use the water, even for water treatment plants.
It's, awfully early in the morning to be painting that kind of a picture, Eric, I just got to say. For a reservoir that gives us most of our drinking water, apparently we all just died.
Well, so that's Paul. We talked about that, and he said, you need to do something about that sometime. And so I actually got someone to help me who since he's not available anymore, but we started on the reservoir in 2009, decided we had to address the city's fire safety issue first, and then we put it on the back burner because the city was in financial stress at the time, and then the nation went into the recession, and my back burner is a place where ideas go to die.
I feel that.
My desk is where ideas go to die.
That is true.
So that, but it was interesting when you came up with the idea, and people who didn't follow the stories, Mansfield has probably almost all, not all of it, but a great deal of it is old 4-inch corroded water mains, many of which are a century old. They're the original water mains that were built when the city was put together. And these things, when you talk about fire safety, we have tons of fire hydrants because of those corroded water mains that don't work at all, or they don't work and produce as much water as they should. So if you had a fire at your house and you had a bad water main or a hydrant, who knows where they're going to have to connect to. So I know when you guys really started pushing for this, that fire safety thing in terms of water mains is something you guys talked about.
Yes, we knew that you had to address the fire safety first before people would want to think about the remote threat to the actual water supply itself. And it's a legitimate and concerning issue. So we focused first on addressing the water mains. And yes, there's nothing wrong with the hydrants themselves. And by the way, we have an excellent fire department. And in my view, if you have a smoke detector, you're asleep in your home, an electric short occurs, and you get a fire in your basement, and the smoke detector wakes you up, our fire department's going to save your life. That's not the issue. The real issue is someone's away from work, and that same fire gets started. They're not home, and that home fires has a couple hours to build heat, and then it bursts out on a windy, dry day, and you can have a neighborhood conflagration where the fire jumps from house to house while firemen are running hoses half a mile away because the present fire hydrant isn't working. And there's nothing wrong with a hydrant.
Yeah.
It's the water supply.
Right.
Well, and it would probably, as the corrosion happens, I would imagine it's providing less water and probably much less pressure out of that hydrant too. maybe?
Yeah, it's really an issue of volume. The pressure relates to the height of the water tower, but it's a lack of volume. So these little 4-inchers corrode in, and now they're at 2.5 inches, and you can't fight a fire with that small a volume.
Now, when you first put this issue on the ballot, it failed.
Yes.
Just by a little bit.
Yes.
And you had to get City Council permission to put it on the ballot.
Yes.
And then they said yes. And then after it failed, you had the temerity to go back and say, can we try this again? And they said no.
Yes.
The voters have spoken.
And this is the water main issue?
Yes.
Okay.
And this was, I think, in the fall. And you really, you were going to have to be trying to get enough signatures to put it on the ballot yourselves. And you were going to have to do it when the weather was starting to get bad. And you didn't have much time. And I remember covering these stories. And then you went back and brought in some folks and asked council, or kind of demanded. I enjoyed covering those meetings. Hey, do this again. We're going to pass it this time. And City Council reversed its vote.
Yes.
What was kind of the key to success in getting local lawmakers to reconsider their own vote?
Well, I never wanted to be the chairman of that campaign. I really do work better if I'm the number 2 guy, where someone else is chairman, they're handling the public, and I can focus on fundraising, which is the part people hate the most. Fundraising, record keeping, reporting, and then being a speaker on behalf. So I didn't have a chairman for that first time around. People who thought this would pass and then it didn't decided to really get involved. And like one of them was James Boyd, who then stepped in and we were co-chairman. And some other people who had close calls or actual tragedies as a result of water not being present in sufficient volume soon enough, they came forward and allowed us to tell their stories. And so then the city council reconsidered and went ahead and put it on the ballot. But the second time around, our committee was about 40 people altogether, not official committee members, but 40 people campaigning, and some of them telling really powerful stories. And as they say, then I finally had the chairman I needed from the get-go. I'd asked about 7 or 8 people to chair the first campaign and couldn't get anyone to do it. So all of that led to a narrow victory, but it was still a victory.
Well, I remember one of the folks who came and spoke to council that night when you asked him to reconsider was Rick Taylor.
Yes.
And Rick still has a very powerful voice in this community, and he basically looked at council and said, if you don't do this, what's your answer? What's your solution?
Yes.
And they didn't really have any, so they came up and said, go ahead.
Yes, he appeared twice, and both times he asked them, what is your alternate plan? He asked the opponents, what is your alternate plan? There were 2 outspoken opponents, and I want to defer it to the councilman who initially said no and then changed their vote and said yes. What you have to keep in mind is the dynamics of how does a councilman get things done. And they don't want to fight with their fellow councilmen, because then the next project might get held up just because of rivalry or resentment over the first vote. So the people who swayed back and forth, they're trying to look at the big picture of how do we get the job done, and it's not just water mains. And the advantage, if you will, that I had is I was singularly focused on infrastructure, not worrying about how my vote would affect my fellow councilmen with regard to salaries or any number of other things.
Well, it's interesting because, and hopefully people keep this in mind, the Water Main Initiative is another 4-year tax.
Yes.
And I believe City Engineer Bob Bianchi said it would take about 4 cycles of that tax, so meaning about 16 years,
yes,
in order to replace all of the 4-inch water mains in the city that need to be replaced. So in 3 years from now, you may be back in here with me talking about a renewal of the water main initiative, Eric.
Carl, it'll be in 2.5 years.
2.5 years, okay.
And I say that because we're watching it. We started working on the renewal campaign within a month after the campaign. We're working on renewal, and we continue to. We do things that plan for the renewal campaign.
Now, I did cover you when you were down at when they actually had a groundbreaking for the first water mains that were being replaced down by North Lake Park. And
yes.
So for those who are wondering, yes, they are actually doing what they said they were going to do with that money.
Yes, they are.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, is there another looming infrastructure project you have your eye on, or is it just focusing on renewing, pothole haters, water mains, or is there something else that's out there that you feel like really needs attention?
Going back to 2008, the reservoir is the big focus.
Okay. Yep.
And we don't know. And by the way, hats off to the city administration. Hats off to the mayor and public works director, Mayor Perry and Louis Andrus. They encouraged council, and council voted to spend $150,000 on a very thorough study of all aspects of the reservoir. And that study is underway. The firm doing it, they are the experts not only in Ohio but regionally beyond Ohio. And so that study will come out sometime next year. And of course, I wouldn't know how to do the study. I wouldn't. But I have a hunch based on my environmental mentor and some scientists I know who speak off the record because they're not specifically reservoir experts. I have a hunch that they're going to say we need to, as a community, start spending money to dredge the reservoir or do something else to stop it from becoming increasingly shallow. And if we don't, we are playing into the hands of what's called harmful algae blooms. And these are single-celled animals that can almost work like a terrace cell. If the conditions aren't right, they can go into a dormant state for 6 or 7 years, and then when conditions are right, they can start reproducing at a rate of doubling their number in a matter of minutes or hours. And that's pretty fast compared to human beings who need 9 months of gestation. So they're from an evolutionary point of view, they're very clever. They've been around for billions of years. They are smarter than humans in terms of the simple problem of how do you create the next generation, how do you stay alive for years at a time. They've got a multi-billion-dollar or multi-billion-year history of success in surviving. We humans don't, and we got to respect their ability to outsmart us and take out our reservoir someday if we don't watch out for them.
Yeah, for those who don't follow along, the watershed, the rivers, the streams, and everything, as they come down, they all flow into what the man-made Clear Fork Reservoir, and they bring with it sediment and all the things that the water picks up and brings with it as it goes along. And I know one of the things, because I did at least a couple of stories about this study, they're going to have, like, I believe, boats out there, and they do not only from the surface, but they'll look under to see just how filled up and with silt and things the reservoir is. When I wrote stories about this and I talked to the city engineer, Bob Bianchi, I said, okay, here's how much the study cost, and it's not cheap, obviously. What would it cost to actually dredge the reservoir and get all this stuff out? And as Bob is apt to do in such circumstances, he kind of rolled his eyes and said, depends, but it's not going to be cheap. So where would the city, without passing some sort of a bond issue like they did with the water treatment plant or things like that, where would the city, or where do you think the city should begin looking for funding to help clear up the reservoir?
Well, I would just say, and this is where it comes down to, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and I don't know what the study will exactly say. I don't know where the funds will come from. I think it's going to require some form of belt tightening, or I just don't know what it will require. But someone needs to figure it out, and the community needs to understand the need for collective sacrifice to protect our water supply for the long run. We can't just be short-sighted. And, one reason why, and I kick myself that I left this on the back burner for so long, but I'd go home and turn on the water, and good, fresh, drinkable water would come out of the faucet, and so I just wouldn't get around to this. So if that happens to me as a so-called infrastructure advocate, it's bound to happen to regular citizens.
Now, you did come to City Council a couple of weeks ago and made a suggestion. What were you advocating for then?
Well, the city, at its option, at its discretion, has chosen in past years to use some money from its water fund, which is generated by water and sewer bills. They've used water fund money, to supplement street repaving where it's necessary to remove or adjust water infrastructure that's in the street. And that's a legitimate expenditure, but they don't have to do it. The pothole money has to go for street repair, street repaving. Water money doesn't have to be spent to supplement it. So my suggestion was get ahead of the issue by withholding water funds from the street resurfacing. Now, again, I'm not running the whole city, nor would I claim to, and I'm an infrastructure guy, so that's how it looked to me, and I've stated my point of view. Some people who agree with me have stated that. We'll wait and see what City Council and the mayor decides.
Eric, are there active signs right now of the algal bloom in the reservoir, or is that what the study would show, or is it just knowing that this happens to reservoirs?
It happens to reservoirs, and some of the most dangerous species have appeared in the reservoir in small numbers, and they can, in a small outbreak, can be chemically treated.
Has that happened at Clear Fork?
That's happened at Clear Fork, but that happens at a lot of reservoirs, and not necessarily ones that are in trouble. And it can even happen upstream, and they wash in. But what's dangerous, as I say, these little single-cell animals, they operate like a terrorist cell. They can lay dormant for years and years, and then when the time comes right to attack, they attack.
How quickly does that happen?
Well, again, I'm outside my expertise,
right.
But if as they lay in that dormant condition, if the conditions become right for them, there's enough fertilizer nutrients, the water's warm enough, and perhaps other conditions, all of a sudden they break out of their dormant state and they start to reproduce. And because the water is warm and there's plenty of washed-in fertilizer for them to feed off of, they start to reproduce. Well, they double. One turns into two, but they can do that at the rate of several minutes.
Wow.
Now, so then you just start multiplying by 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and you can go from a small number to
a lot.
Yeah, more stars than there are stars in the universe, by.
Well, I remember, I think it was back in 2014, there was a algae bloom breakout in Lake Erie near the city of Toledo.
Yes.
And they basically, for 3 days, 1 million residents were told, don't drink the water. That's how quickly this can happen. And it did happen not only in a body of water, it happened in Lake Erie, which is a pretty big body of water.
Yes. That's...
For those who don't think this can happen to us, do some quick research on the city of Toledo and an algae bloom, because it was a mess.
Yeah. And then at the same time, everyone who's saying this knows a little bit about harmful algae blooms, and So for all we know, we're pushing the panic button prematurely. That's what the study is going to, tell us. So I'm not out here to say rush out and start storing empty bottles of water.
Yeah.
So you don't have to start saving up right now. Just pay attention to the environment, right, Eric?
There we go. All
right. Folks, we are going to wrap up today's show on that note. Many, many thanks to Eric Miller for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you, everyone at Richland Source.
And thanks again to all of you for listening to the Newsman Weekly. I'll be back in a second to put a bow on this week's episode, but until then, remember what Mark Twain said. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.